Hello and welcome to the unit tutorial for History Year 3, Unit 1, Stone, Bronze and Iron Ages. This is part 2 of 2 videos. I'm Megan Latchford and I'm a Design Lead at Art Curriculum Plus for Primary History, Geography and Science. This video will walk you through the following areas: how to adapt activities and lessons, how to plan for the Enquiry Question, and key moments within the unit to look out for. A great resource to use to adapt pupil activities in this unit is the online ebook workbook. This is a demonstration of how to use the ebook to adapt activities. Here I'm using a Year 3 Science workbook, but this video applies to all year groups and subjects. To access the ebook workbook for this unit, log into Oxford OWL, select the year group and subject you want, in this case Science Year 3, but for your case History Year 3. The first resource on the list is the ebook, and this is an online exact copy of the pupil workbook. Use the arrows to scroll through the pages, and you can find all the units for Year 3 within this ebook, just like in the physical copy. Select the activity you want to adapt by using the snipping tool and highlighting that section. You may be familiar with the snipping tool, but it can be found by searching in the search bar, or simultaneously pressing Windows, Shift and S. Drag your mouse to highlight the area you want to copy, and that section of your screen will be copied onto your clipboard. And now you can press Paste, and that section will be pasted onto the document you want. Sometimes you may find that Word works best, and sometimes perhaps Publisher. I like to use Word for the Draw tool if I want to highlight anything or write in handwriting, and Publisher is quite good for moving around text boxes and shapes. Now you can adapt the activity in any way you want. Here you can see I'm actually adding an extra label, but adapt the activity to the needs of your class. Then you can print this out and stick it on top of the activity in the pupil workbook. Every lesson starts with a knowledge quiz except for lesson 1, and they can be implemented in a variety of ways which entirely depends on what works best for your class. They are an important step to check for understanding and address any misconceptions, so try not to miss them out. We have found from teacher feedback that most teachers teach these quizzes with pupils sat at desks, independently answering the questions, and this is great if this works for you, and if it does, keep doing so. But there are other options if you feel this isn't the best method for your class. Hello! Here is a workbook activity for lesson 1. I'm going to run through some of the activities in the workbook from lesson 1 to 6, but we don't have time for all the activities, but I will give suggestions on how you may adapt them, and these ideas can be transferred to any other activities in the workbooks or slides. You don't have to use my examples or even adapt at all, but these are suggestions for ways in which you could. For this activity, the unit planning guide suggests using, if possible, 3 replicas of Stone Age tools. If you don't have access to any, the lesson provides an additional resource with 3 Stone Age artifact images. For this activity, pupils should answer the who, what, how and why questions based on what they can infer about these artifacts. At this point in the lesson, pupils will have already learnt about the meaning of prehistory, its 3 main eras, and what an artifact is. To support this activity, you could use the answer slide or answers you filled in yourself to complete the 4 boxes by turning the answers into boxes that pupils cut out, order and stick into their workbooks. Another option would be to add this information to the additional resource sheets to support pupils in a more challenging way. For example, you could add the labels to the page with the corresponding question for pupils to read and sort into the correct answer boxes. This provides pupils with the information they need to be successful, but challenges them to sort through it for themselves. To stretch children, you could create a challenge activity asking pupils what each artifact may have been called. For example, pupils may answer spear, axe or hammer, and knife. This task is a retrieval task, which we can tell from the magnifying glass icon. If you are adapting your reading lessons and use adaptations that work well for your pupils with retrieval questions, we'd strongly recommend using similar adaptations here. Pupils will be familiar with the activity and their methods of being successful. For this activity, pupils can use just the text here in their workbooks to successfully complete the table, but they would have also learned extra information from the slides-only reading text, which would support this comprehension further. Remember, these activities aren't standalone. Pupils are building on their knowledge to complete this table since Lesson 1. One way you may wish to adapt this activity is by highlighting keywords in the text and table. This could be done by sticking the highlighted text on top of the text here in the workbook, or by printing off the corresponding read slide with the text highlighted. To support pupils even further, you may wish to partially complete some areas of the table, so pupils are given extra time to focus on a few key facts rather than all. To stretch pupils, you could add a challenge activity such as this. Why do you think people stopped moving around in the Neolithic period? Pupils may answer here that people stopped moving around as they started farming, which meant they had to stay in one place. For this activity, pupils are asked to compare life in Neolithic Britain to life in Bronze Age Britain. This is a group task, as you can tell from the group task icon. You may wish to carefully think how you will set up group tasks, what sort of size they'll be, and what pupils work well to support each other. You could use the answer slide to provide cards for pupils to cut and sort, either small enough to stick into workbooks or used to write up once sorted. To support pupils further, you colour code the similarities and differences, which allow pupils to sort through easily, but still gives them the challenge to work out which groups show the similarities and which groups show the differences. Another support would be to find images of Neolithic and Bronze Age life to support. To stretch pupils, you could give them this challenge activity. Would you prefer to have lived in Neolithic or Bronze Age Britain, and why? This activity is an investigation activity, which you can tell from the investigation icon. Pupils are required to analyse a source, in this case the image shown. Then pupils need to answer 3 questions based on the source. One way to support pupils could be to highlight some areas to look at using arrows like this. Direct pupils towards the aspects of the source you want them to notice. You could also highlight the keywords in the question to support their understanding of the question. Alternatively, for more support, you give pupils options to choose from, such as circling 2 or 3 answers and ticking the correct idea. To stretch pupils, offer a challenge activity such as, which job do you think was most important and why? For this activity, you have the option of printing the additional resource for pupils to cut out and sort through in groups to stick into the table. You can support pupils by highlighting keywords in the text to support understanding. You can also highlight keywords in the theory to support pupils in making the links to the evidence. You could offer a yes/no option for pupils to circle instead of write, and offer sentence stems for the right activity. Challenge pupils with an activity asking them what their own ideas may be. This could be similar to the right task, or they may come up with an entirely new idea. Encourage them to use evidence from what they have learnt in that lesson to answer. In this Lesson 6 activity, pupils are able to answer this table using text in the previous page. This is another activity where you could highlight keywords in the text and table to support pupils' understanding. Another step could be to partially complete the table to allow pupils to spend more time on the other sections. Stretch pupils by asking a challenge question, such as, which festival would you like to go to and why? To recap, this is the inquiry question for this unit. Lesson 6 is only an hour to provide time within the lesson for pupils to complete this activity. How pupils complete this end of unit assessment is decided by your school or your year group or your class teacher. So now is a great time to think ahead to plan for what this will look like. To support teachers with implementing the inquiry question, we have created an inquiry question support document. Here you can find the information you will need and an additional activity for pupils to complete. This could support them as a planning activity, be a recap of the entire unit knowledge to refresh memories before the assessment, or be edited into the assessment itself. The Enquiry Question support document for this unit can be found with the other resources on Oxford OWL. There are a variety of ways in which the Enquiry Question could be answered, such as an extended write, a poster, a presentation, a question paper, a multiple choice quiz, or whatever best suits your class. For every unit, there are elements that will need to be planned in advance by the class teacher. You'll need to plan an engaging hook. How will you get pupils interested and engaged in the learning to come? You can show photographs, read a story, show a video, or something more creative. You'll need to print off any additional resources per lesson. Not every lesson will have an additional resource, so make sure you check before you teach. And you may need to gather resources for specific lessons. For example, Lesson 1 requires modern artefact resources and reproductions of Stone Age tools. If you cannot access, there are printable images. And Lesson 2 requires access to laptops, although this can be optional. Here's a list of possible trips and recommended reading for this unit, and you can pause the video here to read through the lists. Hopefully you now feel confident about accessing and teaching this unit. Any questions, please send to primarymastery@curriculumplus.org.uk, and we welcome all feedback to ensure that these resources are as supportive as possible for you and your pupils.